When the Anunnaki first touched down on Earth, it was not with conquest in mind, but survival. The year, according to ancient Sumerian chronology, was over 445,000 years ago. Their home planet Nibiru was dying, their atmosphere deteriorating, and Earth, rich in gold, offered one last hope. But Earth was not a paradise. It was raw, volatile, and untamed. The story of the Anunnaki's arrival is not one of ease, but of struggle, of engineering the impossible on an alien world. Enki, the son of Anu and High Lord of Science, descended to Earth in a celestial chariot, bringing with him a team of 50 elite specialists, astronomers, geologists, engineers, and commanders. Their destination, the lower Persian Gulf. The landing site was chosen for its proximity to the Abzu, where gold was suspected to flow through the earth and into the waters. This region would become Eridu, the very first outpost of the Anunnaki on Earth. Sumerian tablets would later call it the City of the Gods. Enki's first act was not military, it was geological. He analyzed the soil, the waters, and the underground rivers. The gold was real. The plan could work. The mission was officially underway. Eridu was not built by hand. It was built by knowledge passed down for eons. The Anunnaki brought tools powered by what we might call resonance energy, frequencies able to cut stone, shift terrain, and stabilize foundations. These were technologies misunderstood today as myths, but to the Anunnaki, they were simply science. Within Eridu rose the first structures: a central command tower, observation platforms, and living quarters. More than a city, it was a planetary headquarters, a place to transform alien terrain into organized operation. To manage Earth's challenging climate and resources, Enki also developed hydrological systems, redirecting rivers, building canals, and purifying water sources. According to later texts, these systems became the foundation of Mesopotamian irrigation thousands of years later. With Eridu established, the next step was locating Earth's richest gold sources. The oceans contained trace amounts, but extraction was inefficient. Enki proposed a more promising path: deep earth mining. To do this, the Anunnaki expanded into the Abzu, a land believed to correspond with ancient southern Africa. There, veins of gold ran through the mountains and beneath riverbeds. Enki's team set up mining outposts, constructing shafts, tunnels, and extraction facilities. Sumerian texts speak of the Anunnaki descending into the darkness, using advanced instruments to scan rock layers and retrieve pure gold. The plan was to refine it on Earth, ship it to Mars, where the Igigi would receive it, and launch it to Nibiru from orbit. It was ambitious, and for a time it worked. But as gold flowed, so did conflict. As the gold shipments reached Nibiru, the mission's success triggered a critical decision: to expand Earth's operations and bring them under tighter control. That decision came with the arrival of Enlil, Enki's half-brother and rival. Enlil was sent by Anu not just to assist, but to assume command over mission logistics and administration. Where Enki was a builder and experimenter, Enlil was a commander, rigid, hierarchical, and exacting. He saw Earth not as a frontier, but as a machine that must be run with efficiency. And that included managing labor. From the start, tensions were high. Enki viewed the Earth and its species with wonder, adapting to its rhythms, experimenting with life. Enlil, by contrast, saw Earth as hostile, dirty, and beneath the dignity of the Anunnaki. These differing worldviews began to clash, not only in philosophy, but in operational policy. The rift between them would echo across human history as the mythological divide between the gods of wisdom and the gods of wrath. To sustain long-range transport from Earth to Nibiru, the Anunnaki established a crucial way station on Lamu, what we call Mars. Here, a group known as the Igigi took command. They were celestial technicians and pilots, responsible for ferrying gold from Earth's surface to Mars, where it would be loaded onto craft bound for Nibiru. The Igigi lived in isolation, orbiting above Earth's conflicts yet bound to its mission. These Watchers, as later texts would call them, played a silent but pivotal role in the great operation. They were neither scientists nor warriors, but they bore witness to everything. As years passed, their dissatisfaction began to grow. The labor was relentless, and they longed for more than machines and command codes. They watched Earth not just for shipments, but for signs of life. Back on Earth, in the Abzu, conditions deteriorated. The workers, Anunnaki miners sent from Nibiru, labored for millennia in unbearable heat, deep underground, far from Eridu's command centers and Enlil's fortified estates. These were not soldiers. These were engineers, technicians, and laborers who had left their home planet for what was promised to be a noble mission. Instead, they found toil, exhaustion, and abandonment. Sumerian texts describe a growing chorus of dissent. Secret meetings, quiet refusals, rumors of mutiny. The breaking point was near. Enlil ignored the signs. Enki, however, had seen it coming and had already begun to consider alternatives. As the mission matured, so too did the political complexity. Reports reached Anu that discontent was spreading among the miners and even the Igigi. Questions arose. Was Earth sustainable? Could the mission continue without changes? In a rare convening of the Anunnaki High Council, debate erupted. Enlil called for increased control, tighter discipline, and harsh punishments. Enki proposed a radically different idea, one that would define the next stage of Earth's transformation. He suggested the creation of a new being, not a machine, not a clone, but a living creature born of Earth, enhanced with Anunnaki essence, capable of labor, endurance, and learning. The council was divided. What Enki proposed was dangerous. To play with the code of life was to play God, and yet the alternative was collapse. The breaking point came suddenly. In a moment recorded in the ancient Atra-Hasis tablets, the workers of the Abzu dropped their tools and marched toward Enlil's domain. They surrounded his compound, shouting that they would no longer dig, no longer serve. These were not mortals. They were Anunnaki, celestial beings from Nibiru, and they had revolted. Enlil was outraged. He demanded punishment. But the rebellion was not isolated. Across Earth and even on the Martian relay stations, murmurs of rebellion echoed. The mission was unraveling. Enki, ever the mediator, stepped forward and pleaded with the council to spare the workers. Instead of force, he offered a solution that had been forming in his mind for years: a genetic intervention. A new being that could take the burden off the divine. It would be the most controversial act in their history, and the beginning of ours. With reluctant approval from the council, Enki and Ninhursag, his half-sister and chief geneticist, began their work. They explored the genetics of Earth's hominids, early bipeds that walked upright and lived in primitive groups. These beings had potential, but they lacked intelligence, coordination, and language. What they needed was a spark. Enki's idea was to fuse their genetic code with Anunnaki DNA, creating a new hybrid species, capable of thought, obedience, and labor. It would not be easy. The first attempts were failures. Some could not speak, others could not reproduce. Many were unstable, but in time, they succeeded. The being that emerged was not beast and not God, but something new. They called him Adamu, the first human prototype. Adamu was housed in a special compound, what later legends would call Eden or Eden. It was both a laboratory and a sanctuary. There he was observed, trained, and even nurtured. In time, a female companion was engineered, Ti-Amat. Together they represented the beginning of human history, not as chance evolutionary accidents, but as a deliberate creation by ancient beings. Yet not all agreed with Enki's vision. Enlil, horrified by the implications, demanded strict limits on the new species. No breeding, no knowledge, no elevation beyond their purpose. To him, these hybrids were tools, not children. But Enki disagreed. He saw in them the potential for greatness, not just workers, but thinkers, dreamers, beings who might one day surpass even their makers. The debate between Enki and Enlil, between compassion and control, would define the fate of humanity for ages to come. The Anunnaki came to Earth seeking gold. What they found was something far more dangerous: creation. From a planet teetering on atmospheric collapse to a colony carved into the wilderness, their mission evolved into something cosmic. In solving their own crisis, they planted the seeds of ours. Enki, ever the teacher, introduced systems of writing and mathematics, tools necessary for humans to manage resources, record seasons, and build cities. In Sumer, the cuneiform script became the earliest known writing system. It recorded not just goods and trades, but also laws, myths, genealogies, and prayers, each echoing humanity's hybrid origin. The Anunnaki installed priest-kings, part human, part divine, to rule over these early city-states. These rulers enforced a cosmic order called Me, a concept blending science, morality, and divine law. And so, under the guidance of the gods, human civilization began, not in chaos, but in code. Humanity, born from rebellion and ambition, was never meant to simply serve. We were born in the shadows of the gods, but we were never meant to stay there. In the next episode, we'll explore this pivotal transformation, how Enki's genetic experiment became the cradle of civilization, and how the gods' rivalry turned Earth into a battleground for the fate of our species.